Yeah, I'm starting this video off with a dog this time. Yeah, I'm starting this video off with my puppy. This is Dia. There's a goat running from my house. Hello my darlings and welcome back to my channel. Today we are kicking off the end of the first week of 2020, our roaring 20s, with a video that takes us back to last year. This is my top 5 favorite books of 2019. Not all of these books came out in 2019 because I only read, I think, 20 books in 2019, despite one of my goals being to read more. I did not read more. I actually read less. So not all of these books came out in 2019, but they were some of my favorite books of 2019 because I read them then. Make sense? So we are going to jump right in with the book that is at number 1 on my list for 2019. It came out at the very end of November. I have mentioned it on this channel before. It is Terrorfiction Bites. Terrorfiction Bites is a book that is not actually a novel or a short story collection. It is a compilation of short horror bites or snippets, little 2 to 3 line writings that are in some way horror or scary or even just completely gross out. It is an amazing collection. It is written by one of my favorite authors, Creane, and I'm pretty sure that if you are a horror writer, you should have this by your bedside table or sitting on your desk because it's a great way to get inspired. I tend to look at the book as like a very large prompt list. So I do think that for any writer, this is a great book to have. Number 2 on my list is a book that was written by a fellow indie writer. Her name is Mae MacCallum. I have also mentioned her book on this channel. It is called Eat. Eat is a novella that is about weight loss and many other strange and curious things. This is Mae's first book that she has published, and as I said before, I am looking forward to her publishing more books because she is an amazing writer. I was excited about this book even before she published it, so I had never read anything she had written except for like maybe a blog post, and I was excited for her writing. So that should give you kind of a inkling of how great of a writer she is. Book number 3 on my list is an oldie but a new book to me, which is also part of my list. I wanted to only include books I had never read before. Why is my camera shaking? Is it just me? Or was it actually shaking? Okay. I only wanted to include books that I had never read before on this list because I did reread some of Stephen King's books that I had read before, which is why this one is on my list because it was both a surprising favorite of mine and a book I had never read before, and it is Rage by Stephen King. Rage is about young Charlie who is holding his classroom hostage at gunpoint. Charlie is a strange character, but the story itself is really amazing to me. I'm kind of sad that it's not as popular because of very social reasons. As you may know, Stephen King removed the book from publication after it was found in the locker of a school shooter, and I completely am behind whatever decision he makes, obviously, because he is the writer, but I do think that the story is a good story. So if you have not read rage, you'll find it somewhere. It's really hard to find, I hear, but I had it in a collection of Richard Bachman's books, and I managed to find it at like a thrift shop. So if you can get your hands on it. I think my camera is shaking again. Seriously. Stop. You know you live in a trailer when your dryer or wash machine is going and it's shaking your camera in the room all the way at the other end. So I would like to go ahead and apologize for any shaky footage. Am I still shaking? I am still shaking. Holy crap. The fourth book on my list is Lavender Blue by John Huber. I finished this book right before Christmas. It is an amazing little winter read. It is my third book from John Huber that I have read, and not my favorite, but probably my second favorite. The story is beautiful. It is about this young girl who is dealing with being possessed, and she's been dealing with these things for years, but it's finally coming to a head, and then everything is about to explode. And the beauty of this story is in its simplicity, because the emotions are the best part of this story. I think John Huber's writing is very poetic and intricate, and you're not just going to sit down and read this book in one sitting and blaze through it. I just don't see anyone doing that with any of John Huber's books. Not only because of how large they usually are, but you just have to take a little bit of time to appreciate the story that he's telling you and the way he's telling it to you. So I highly recommend it. Check out all of his books, obviously. Check out everyone's other books, obviously. Especially my fellow indie writers, which have been 3 for 4 on this list. It's an Aussie. It's an Aussie. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. It's an Aussie. It's an Aussie. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But, okay. And the last book on my list, I almost hate to put on my best of 2019 list because of the subject matter. But my other favorite read of 2019 was a little novel known as The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. It is kind of hard to be a part of the horror community and not know The Girl Next Door and its sensitive subject matter. As many of you know, it is dealing about a girl that is being held captive in the basement, and these young children and the abuse that they inflict on her at the hands of her aunt, I believe that's who she was, is based on a very real case that I have also watched a movie based on and researched a little about, and it was just as cruel or crueler than The Girl Next Door. I listened to this book through Audible, so I'm not sure if hearing it was a little more creepy and heartbreaking than maybe reading it on the page myself. But it was a very good book, and I did almost just sit straight through it to finish it. I think if you find that you are growing desensitized to a lot of horror and a lot of the very real things to deal with horror, that this book might remind you that you're human. Because there were parts of this book that I was like, I don't know if I want to finish this. And the bad thing is that I've seen the movie based on this book as a child. Yeah, that's probably what's wrong with me. But Jack Ketchum's writing is amazing. This is my first Jack Ketchum book I've ever read. This was the first time I've read this book in particular, and I'm very excited to read more of his work that's coming up here, because I hear that all of it is kind of on the same mold. It's very opposite of what I usually read in horror. So those were my top 5 favorite books of 2019. I would also like to mention a few honorable mentions. I also read The Shuddering by Anya Alborn this year. It is one of my favorite Anya Alborn books, and I think that if you haven't read her work yet, you are truly missing out, because she is one of the greats in the horror community today. I also read Krampus, a Yule Lord. It is a very seasonal read that I enjoyed very much. And yes, I did read it in 2019 at the beginning, because I did not finish it by Christmas. Because I'm a procrastinator when it comes to reading too. I also would like to mention Salem's Lot, because although I had read it before, Salem's Lot is one of my favorite Stephen King books ever. So I feel like you should be reading it, no matter what size it is. I also read a book called Larry by Adam Milliard. That is a very fun read that will pass the time. It's not something you're going to take too long to read. You're going to enjoy it so much you just read it in one sitting. The writing's easy, it's funny, it's about a dude that wears a pig face and he's old and he wants to start hunting teenagers again. So it's very funny. And I was also introduced to Lee Child this year, so I read my first Lee Child book as part of his Jack Reacher series. And I read Running Blind. So if you would like a fast-paced type of thriller mystery book, Lee Child is your man, because this was a pretty big book and I read through it pretty quickly once I actually sat down to read it. So those are all of the books that I would like to mention from 2019. Yes. So what were your top 5 favorite books of 2019? Let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel and give this video a big thumbs up. All of my social media and books are in the description box down below, as well as every place that you can find all of the writers mentioned today. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Kisses, my darlings.